To all my Carter cousins gathered in St. George, I extend a very warm welcome from my office here at church headquarters. Actually, you're probably warmer than I am. I'm grateful that my sister Deborah, who is having some considerable hand in this reunion, is willing to represent me and my family for this Carter time that you're having together. I regret missing these reunions, and yet with my life, I'll be lucky if I don't miss my own funeral. We seem to have so little time to do the things we would dearly love to do, and the older I get, family things, especially just such reunions, are some of the greatest joys of my life. Have a good time, even without me. I'll get a blow-by-blow account from Deborah later on as to how things worked out. First of all, I want you all to note that I have here with me my handy pocket-sized edition of the William Carter family history. Shanna, wherever you are, bless you. Bless Augusta and Meta before you. I don't believe there is a finer family history anywhere in this church. Thank you for this from all of the family members. And we are justifiably proud to claim our heritage from William Carter. We may even be a bit excessive in our pride, but if you can't be proud of your family, what can you be proud of? We never fail to remind folks that he was in that first advance company to enter the Salt Lake Valley. We've all gone by to see his name conspicuously on the monument at This Is the Place State Park. Furthermore, we never tire of telling how he plowed the first furrow in the valley, and I am grateful that the family has memorialized that with a plaque near the present city and county building. And then we're equally quick to say that he plowed the first furrow in St. George. I grew up on those stories, and with Carters in every direction in St. George, it was easy to hear them pretty frequently. As if that weren't enough, I walked home from school every day, past the original Carter homestead property. I'm either old enough or young enough, I don't know which way you would say that as a little boy, I knew and heard some of the senior citizens in the family then speak of knowing and remembering Grandpa Carter personally. Time rolls on and that kind of thing doesn't happen anymore. But for all of my admiration for William Carter, and it is immense, I have to say that I'm at least as impressed, maybe even more so, with his beloved wives. In that regard, I'm grateful that descendants of all three of Grandpa Carter's wives are in attendance at this reunion. As you know, I'm a descendant of Ellen Benbow Carter. Over my shoulder, behind me on the wall, is a painting of the famous Benbow Farm and Benbow Pond. It's been one of the thrills of my life to serve as a missionary in England, as a young man first, and then to return as a general authority to preside over the Western European area, based in England. On both of those occasions, and many times since, before and after, I've had wonderful opportunities to visit Herefordshire. There I came and went repeatedly in Ledbury, where Grandpa Carter was born and raised, and only a few miles away I regularly visited John Benbow's farm at Castle Frome. By the way, I have to say it is a mystery to me, an absolute mystery, to believe that those two, William Carter and Ellen Benbow, did not know each other, living that close to each other in a church congregation that was as small as that church was when they joined it. Now, maybe you have evidence that they did know each other, but I've never been able to find any, and have always been told that they did not meet until they were both in Nauvoo. Well, in any case, they would marry in Nauvoo in December of 1845, a marriage performed by Wilford Woodruff, who had baptized Ellen in that famous pond on March 9th, 1840, scarcely 5 days after Brother Woodruff had made his way down through the British countryside to discover the Benbow family and the United Brethren congregation, who were all waiting for his mission and his message. I'm also grateful for Harriet Temperance Utley Carter, for her deep roots in Alabama, and for the marriage in which she and William were united in Salt Lake City in 1853. Just a few years later, in 1857, Harriet was instrumental in William meeting and marrying Sophronia Ellen Leonora Hart Turnbow. Sophronia, or Phroney, as she was called, was also from Perry County, Alabama. Harriet had been a neighbor to the Turnbow family there. It was natural when they all gathered in Salt Lake City that Harriet, who in fact lived with the Turnbow family for a time after her own parents' death, would be good friends with Phroney and would come to share Grandpa Carter with her in a plural marriage. I really do have to say that it is genuinely moving to me to read how these women embraced polygamy and were so wonderfully good with each other in those circumstances. For example, Harriet and Phroney, who were already such wonderful friends, immediately became wonderful friends to Ellen. When William was called to St. George, he took Phroney, the youngest of his wives, arriving there in December of 1861. She drove wagon, prepared meals, did the cooking. When they got to the valley, she mixed the mud to make the adobes for their home. Then she carried the finished adobes to William and prepared mortar for him to lay them. She plastered her home with her own hands, made the doors and window casings, hung both back and front doors. Obviously, these women could do anything. When William went back to Salt Lake to get Ellen and Harriet and their families, Harriet notes that they all lived together in that St. George home until other houses could be built. Harriet said, and I quote directly, "I lived with my husband's first wife, Ellen, for 30 years, and she did not want me to leave her when I did. During all those years, Ellen and I never quarreled and lived happily together." Our family records indicate that indeed Ellen wept when she, Harriet, and Phroney each had their own homes to move into. For me, that says something about the majesty of these women that I am sure no contemporary critic of polygamy will or can ever understand. Well, enough reminiscing. Thank you for the invitation to join you by video. Have a great time. Be good to my sister, and take a moment to remember my mother. I do know that the strong female Carter blood is still flowing in Carter veins. For example, Karma Kemp Wasden is my lifelong neighbor, my mother's 4-H student, and my cousin by way of Sophronia. Eileen Carter Ferris is my BYU schoolmate, pioneer trekker, and feisty cousin through Harriet. The list goes on and on. I, of course, don't want to offend the Carter men, but heaven help me if the Carter women ever turned on me. They are a force to contend with, then and now. Enjoy, Dixie. God bless you always.